That's me dancing to the Festival of Hope theme song. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Festival of Hope. We are entering week 7 of our celebration of the year-end rituals, traditions, and holidays that happen beginning from the start of our Festival of Hope time from September, heading all the way into January. This week is something super special. I'm excited about this week. We are celebrating the holiday of Dias de los Muertos, and our theme is loved, missed, and remembered. I love so much about this holiday, and the reason I love this holiday is actually because I was introduced to it by one of my very favorite people in the whole wide world, who I'm excited to be able to share with you today. So please welcome Michele Dipple, who is a number of things. One of them is a Soaring Spirits founding board member, but for the purposes of our call today, she's my best friend and the person who I have shared the last 15 years. We both have marked the 15-year anniversary of our husband's death. Hi, honey. How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
I'm
Good to
good.
see you.
You as well. So when I was thinking about Dias de los Muertos, I was realizing that you were the first person who ever talked to me about it being a holiday. I had no idea what it meant or what it was, or that anyone in the world was celebrating loved ones in the unique way that is a part of this celebration. So I would love to know what brought Dias de los Muertos into your life. So tell me a little bit about it.
So I live in Texas, as you know, and there are in Austin. Growing up, there were always smallish. There's a downtown celebration of Dia de los Muertos, and I didn't know what it was. All I ever saw was the sugar skulls, and I thought that was super cool, and didn't have any understanding of the meaning. And frankly, I'm not sure why I didn't look into it more. But when I was, other than
Maybe
thinking
because you
that's
were a
kind of cool,
teenager.
I wasn't. I guess I wasn't curious enough to think what is that about. And
Oh, our dad's here.
hi,
Hi,
Dad.
Papa. How's it
Hi.
going?
Mwah.
We share
Um,
parents.
um, I then when I was in graduate school, I was studying the cultures of Central America and found out about Day of the Dead, and um, and the history of it more than how it was celebrated today, but where it came from. And so I at the time just was fascinated by it. I loved Halloween, and it was sort of an extension of the holidays. So Halloween, All Saints Day, All Souls Day is Day of the Dead, November 2nd. And I didn't really celebrate it. I was aware of it and enjoyed it and thought it was, very cool, and occasionally bought a sugar skull at that time of year. And then when my husband passed away, he died on November 3rd. He died at 1 o'clock in the morning on November 3rd. And the I didn't think about it at the time, but the next year, as the anniversary was coming up, I thought, wow, he just barely missed dying on Day of the Dead by an hour. I feel like I should make this part of my ritual of memory. And so I started decorating his grave every year for Dia de los Muertos. And it wasn't the first couple of years that I did an altar, but the tradition is that you either go to the gravesite and celebrate. You bring their favorite foods and drinks and flowers and all of the things that would help you to celebrate them. And the story is that for that 24-hour period, the souls have access to their family, and so everybody throws, you basically are throwing a big party for your loved ones on the other side. And so I would decorate the grave, and then a few years later, I started building my own ofrenda at home, and and then people started buying me stuff that was Day of the Dead, and now I have so much Day of the Dead stuff that it
That there's been a
overtakes my house a little
referendum
bit.
on purchasing her anymore Day of the Dead things. One
Please
of the things
stop.
that's so unique to me about how this came into our lives is, first of all, because you were aware of it, living in Texas. I live in California, and though I'm not as close to the border, so it's a bigger deal in San Diego area. The closer to the border areas, I think, have more of a presence of Day of the Dead. But I was driving through Oxnard, California yesterday, and there are fields and fields of marigolds. And so one of the things that is traditional for celebrating Day of the Dead is gold and orange marigolds, and they're just so beautiful. But as I was driving by, if I had driven by that 15 years ago, I would have had no idea why there were fields of marigolds, just that it was marigold time. But the
What's driving
marigolds
the demand?
yeah, and I mean, fields and fields. It was actually spectacular. It was beautiful. So, but for us, like this is one of our connections was that. So Michelle's husband died, as she said, on November 3rd. My husband died on August 31st. We came together because our family members didn't quite know what to do with us, being both young widowed people with kids, and so they connected us with each other, which led to a whole lot of good things for Soaring Spirits, and particularly for us and our families. But this connection with Day of the Dead has been something that we've shared because by the time Michelle and I came together, she had already, kind of had the thought that she was going to start including Daniel in the Day of the Dead celebrations. And so I do want to also point out, so any of you who've seen Coco is a Disney movie that came out, what was it, about 3 years ago, I'd say. And it does such a great job of expressing the purpose and the beauty of Day of the Dead, but it's a remembrance of anyone in your family who's died. And so for me, what has been beautiful is the expansion of this concept to include other people in my life who you remember at this time of year. So the idea is like remember all of the people who died in addition for us as widowed people. Of course, our husbands are the first people that come to mind, but people remember their grandparents, their great aunts, their friends, anyone who has preceded them in death, and they want to take time to remember the uniqueness of who they are. So that includes, like you said, putting food items. So can you explain to people why would you put a food item on a grave, and what kind of food items do people put out?
So the origin of the food piece, it goes back a long time and goes back to the Aztecs actually, and further, but 3,000 years in the New World, and that the you were giving that one. What we've turned it into is that it's a party, right? So it's a celebration, and we are giving them the things that they would have had if they had been here and it was their birthday party or something. Um, but the origin of it was that you were actually giving them sustenance for their journey. So they were on a journey, and you were giving them food and drink to take with them on their journey. And so now with the idea of the celebration, what I do is my husband's favorite drink was Jack Daniels and Coke. So I take Jack and Coke and a little thing of queso and some kolaches and just whatever the things were that he liked. And the funniest thing for me is, especially when I do it in the cemetery, is that he's buried in a Catholic cemetery, but it's a Czechoslovakian community. And so, they're not, it's literally the only grave that's decorated for Day of the Dead. And I'm sure people are like, what is going on over there? And I think because of movies like Coco, probably more people than I expect know exactly what's going on over there. But it's really kind of a cool thing. And my son and I would go every year, and then we'd eat whatever we brought and then leave some for him. So there would be, some food for him when he showed up to get his snacks, and decorate it with marigolds. I've already bought some marigolds this year that are sitting on my counter in my kitchen. And, it's just kind of a cool way to remember and to celebrate. And
Yeah.
it's turned that anniversary into something really special and beautiful in a way that it wouldn't have been if it weren't right at that date.
So the flip side, for any of you who, like me, don't have a graveside to visit, so Phil was 100% certain that he wanted to be cremated. In fact, told me he would haunt me if I did not if I were to do anything except for what he said. I started having just a little altar at home. And so many people will create their altars in their homes, and it's any kind of space. You can use a small desk, a side table. You can put it on the kitchen table if you wanted to, anywhere you want. And what you do, so the first year we did it, I encouraged the kids to all pick up something that reminded them of Phil. So anything in the house that they wanted that would remind them of Phil. And so, one of them put a bike helmet, one of them put a pair of funny socks because he loved funny socks. One of them put a little figurine of Homer Simpson, because that was his favorite TV show to watch. And so each one of, at first they kind of dragged their feet, but by the time they got into it, it was just this funny collection of all of the different things that reminded us of him. And as you walk past it, it's a reminder that they lived. It's a reminder that they're a part of, your life going forward. And so I've really loved it. And so Michele and I have been to a number of different places where Day of the Dead is celebrated, in Texas and in California, and have run a race on that day. And we actually had planned a race for that day for this year, but 2020 being what it is, instead here we are sitting talking about Day of the Dead. But I think that what's been beautiful is that for 15 years, it's been something that we've just sort of evolved and evolved and evolved as we went through both our own growth through our grief and our understanding of the value of the remembering. In fact, our theme is loved, missed, and remembered, because it's something that we've talked about a lot, continuing to love them, missing them. And this is the opportunity to remember them in such a unique, almost playful way. So I want to just encourage any of you who might be interested in considering setting up an ofrenda, which is the name of the altar that would be set up to honor your person. And you'll see a community video tomorrow, which is fantastic, which was made by our community member, Denise, who is in Mexico and who has her own personal traditions around Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, and she's going to be sharing some of her ofrenda with us. So I'm excited about that. She'll also be with us on our Zoom call on Thursday to be sharing some of the things that will be on her ofrenda. So this will give you an opportunity throughout the week to think about, what might you want to put there. There's no wrong way to do it. So you can, there's all kinds of different things. Tell me some of the things besides food that you've put on Daniel's.
So one of his favorite games to play was washers, which is like horseshoes, but it's little washers. And so there are washers on his. Those have stayed. They're there all the time now. The washers are, but bottles of beer, washers. We brought little fishing bobbers. So he really liked to fish, and so and on my ofrenda at home, I bought a lot of little skeletons. So I have a skeleton bride and groom. I have he was a home restoration guy, so I have a little remodeler, contractor guy that's a skeleton, and then the flowers are awesome. Of course, the sugar skulls, and you have to get new sugar skulls every year because they're designed to dissolve. So sugar skulls, music, sometimes a picture. Photos and not photos that would print a copy, that way you could leave it and not be worried that you wouldn't get your picture back. But
one of the coolest things about the race that we did was that they made community ofrendas. And so Michele and I were able to take pictures of Phil and Daniel and put them up along with, hundreds of other people's pictures of their loved ones. And surrounding all of those photos were all kinds of different, both marigolds and sugar skulls. I also want to just mention, for the skeletons, they are, at first, my first view of skeletons was always it was kind of a scary Halloween thing, because Halloween, of course, is all kind of connected, as you said. Halloween, All Saints Day, All Souls Day, and Day of the Dead are all sort of wrapped up in this little package. The skulls really, and the skeletons are still a representative sort of our people. And in Coco, they did such a beautiful job of that. Instead of making them scary, they were funny, and they were, just representative of a shape for a person who has died, and being able, so tell me again the name of the skeletons, and do you have any favorites?
So, I love my little bride and groom skeletons are my favorite. The calaveras are the name of the skulls, and the skeletons, I always want to mess up the word for the skeletons.
I can't. I wasn't going to attempt it because I know I'm not going to get it right.
Calacas.
Yeah, I think that's right. And they're like dancing skeletons. I mean, they're in motion. They're fun. They're not intended to frighten, I don't think.
Right now.
they're supposed to represent the people you love. And so at these races that we've been to representing Day of the Dead, they have full scale, like
giant ones,
beautiful
giant ones.
Skeletons that are out dancing and
dressed in beautiful garments. And
that's a good point. They're not just plain skeletons with no clothes on and just bones. They're always dressed in something fancy. So you'll often see things that are on ofrendas are these beautifully dressed skeletons with hats.
They're there for the party. They're dressed
they're there for the party. They're there for the party. But it's literally one of my favorite things about the entire experience of it is that it's also lighthearted, and it gives people. I noticed a comment. They aren't scrolling for me very well, so I apologize if I'm not responding to specific comments. But I did notice that someone said that there's another Melissa. Yeah, it was Melissa. Yes, was saying that the different traditions bring in similar aspects of grief into their celebration. I love that. And I think what's beautiful too about Day of the Dead is it's been going on for such a long time that it has sort of spawned all kinds of other, or been influenced by others as well. And so it gives us an opportunity to be a part of the encouraging and the remembrance of the people that we love who are part of our everyday lives. And so I think it also normalizes speaking about grief in a way, because you're able to talk about what you're going to put on the ofrenda. And when people say, what is that? You're able to, answer what that looks like. So let me see if there's any questions. I did tell Michelle that I thought it was very funny that neither of us, being of any kind of Hispanic heritage or living in Mexico or any of the other countries where this is celebrated, it's funny that we're the ones introducing this, but because we have a personal connection to it, and because we have Denise coming on tomorrow to really represent the someone who has a personal relationship that has celebrated this through her life, I felt like we could go for it. So if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. If you I'm going to ask Jenny. I'm going to just look really quick to make sure. So if we see anybody who has questions, but okay, good. They told us that we're good to go. No questions yet. So please feel free to pop them in the chat before we hang up here. But Michelle, you have any final thoughts about how about just the idea of creating your own ofrenda, and where would you even begin? Let's try that.
Yeah, I think one, there's no limit and there are no rules. You get to do whatever you want. So I think that's the coolest thing. You get to make it as personal and about your person or persons. Often, as you said earlier, it starts out as, for me, it started out as just the one person as affiliated with my altar, but then it sort of branches out because you're talking about different people and expanding the day to celebrate more than just that one person. Foods that they liked, their clothes. I loved that you said you had socks for Phil, things that they would have wanted. So if, I tried to think of it as if I were planning their party. If this was a party for them, what would they want me to have? We had Mardi Gras beads because our big party was this Mardi Gras crawfish boil. So there was, we would bring Mardi Gras beads, a little crawfish, and just the things that they would have loved. And it could be as simple as a card. Some people write cards and put them on the ofrenda. Love notes, you can put a love note on there. Candles, clearly the skulls and the skeletons, which are awesome, just from a clearly defining what your altar is, right? This is a Dia de los Muertos. But you can do whatever you want. There are no limits. And you can start small. You can have one picture and a candle and one marigold or something. And, then you just buy stuff and build it. I've got a bag full of stuff now.
I'm going to just say for Carol, she asked if we could repeat. Carol, an ofrenda is an altar that's made during Day of the Dead to represent the person who you're celebrating. Person or persons. Bye, Dad. Lots of love back to you. The persons or persons that you're honoring. So anyone who's preceded you in death has the opportunity to be represented by your ofrenda, and it can be pictures. It's, as Michelle was just saying, it's a collection of the things that would have mattered to them in life, or the things that remind you of them. So the idea of an ofrenda is to celebrate your people, and it could be on a desk, it could be on a chair, it could be on your outside patio, it could be anywhere you want it to be. Marigolds are a traditional flower, sugar skulls and skeletons are a traditional decoration, but the sky is literally the limit. We're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow when Denise shares hers with us. And then we will be back on Thursday, and you guys will have the opportunity, if you'd like, to share some of your friend items with us. So we'll be sharing ours with you. I'm looking forward to being able to see what you guys all come up with. And the beauty of this holiday, as we've said, is just the opportunity to, in a lighthearted way, celebrate the people that we love who will always be part of our lives. And that's the beauty of this particular holiday. So, Michele, thank you for being a part of everything, but especially for sharing our shared love of this holiday, and for introducing me to it, because I'm not sure I would have found it if it weren't for you.
I'm glad I was useful.
Yeah, in a million ways. All right, friends. Well, good night from the Festival of Hope. Look for the video tomorrow. We will be sharing Denise's video tomorrow. You're going to learn more about ofrendas. That'll give you still a couple more days. We're not at Dias de los Muertos yet, so that means you have plenty of time to think about your ofrenda, start thinking about what you might want to gather. I promise you that if you do a simple internet search, you're going to find more things than you can imagine, but a lot of times it's just enough to spark an idea. So we hope that you'll be spending a lot of time remembering this week and really sort of reveling in the love. Okay, everyone, be well. Look forward to seeing you guys all on Thursday. Take good care. Bye-bye.